Hello and welcome. Welcome in if you're watching in with us to the Krisullis Earth Matters podcast. I'm Caroline Kez, and today we have a very special mini series that has been curated. And while I will be getting into a context of what this is all about and who our guest is, and start to hand over parts and pieces of this conversation, I'd like to appreciate your time if you're watching in. We're living in a time where technology has been a dominant conversation, regardless of whether we're in an educational something, we're in businesses, and all of that to say that today's anchor is centered around STEM, and actually more importantly, STEAM, which also includes arts. So it's science, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Um, through historically, we have seen that a lot of times with innovation and with cycles of, what's going on technologically, many times women have been left out because of, systems, ideologies, and just the way we have institutionalized opportunity. And while we are living in a time where, we believe that we are claiming and reclaiming equal opportunity, and I speak on behalf of all women across the globe as I say that, I also know and I recognize that, economically, ethically, we do still have a long way to go. And it's fascinating to see and learn as I've been diving into a lot of the information from the past, but also what's currently going on globally. Um, how there is a lot of scope for us to keep moving forward, and we have to do this together because while this is not just a systemic challenge and an opportunity, we can't do this alone. We're not meant to do this alone. So, on that note, why are we doing this mini series? So, the Chrysalis is an energetic space. We curated this space a little over 3 years ago when we started to work with our communities at the grassroots level in Nigeria, and we were facilitating financial, economic literacy tools and technologies that can be applied along with the blockchain, primarily because Africa and parts of Africa are quite active in using blockchain technologies for their daily usage. And so from there, we started to understand the benefits of working with communities. And quite frankly, me personally, I've always wanted to step back from, sometimes we go down the rabbit hole so deep that we could have a tendency to lose track of why we start something. And I had to revisit the drawing board in 2021 when I decided that the mission of the chrysalis, which is really the energetic space where the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, goes through all these transformational changes and comes out as a butterfly. This space of guidance, mentorship, providing knowledge, providing education needs to be fine tuned to community needs. And that's where we decided to move deeper into the overarching mission, goals, and direction of sustainability. And here we are, 2 years later, well, 2.5 years later, of working with communities in different countries within Africa. It's been very rewarding because I believe, overriding what we are giving out, there is a focus back to self. And it's very fulfilling to be seeing the dedication, the ambition, the commitment, the uphill task that our youth in Africa are willing to go the mile with, just so that they can improve their lives, their livelihood, and be able to create an impact in the community. And 2024, this year, we decided to curate a program called 100 Young African Women in STEAM. And that's where I dovetail back into this mini series. This is the first episode of this mini series. And I'm very, very happy, very honored to have a dear friend um, who I've known for, I think, about easily about 10 years now, Navneet Bhushan. Navneet, I'm going to hand it over to you because I would like to welcome you in very warmly, to thank you for saying yes to facilitate what I believe is an important mission to not just change lives, but to be able to transform a collective mindset on how we as women see ourselves from the perspective of our potential and pay due reverence to our skills, honor them, and be able to work with experts such as yourself in order to apply their learning so that there can be sustainable growth for themselves, for their families, for their communities. So on that note, very happy to welcome you in. Please tell us before we get into the program more about who you are.
Thank you, Caroline, and I must say that it's a privilege and honor to be here, and also the broad sort of spectrum that you have painted, specifically on these energizing young people to really create the change that we need to see in the world. And of course they also want to see, and they may be perceiving how to do it, and that sort of a initiative from your side looks extremely promising, and I'm really look forward to contributing in whatever way we can. I come from a background of science because of the vocation that I chose was called, or the designation was, I mean, scientist, when I started my career in what is called the Defense Research Development Organization in 1990 for about a decade, and then, of course, worked for various other companies. And we started our company called Graffiti in 2008. So we are actually in the 17th year of our existence. I'm based out of Bangalore. Also, the company is based out of Bangalore, but we work across the world on innovation. And I mean, that's sort of a background that I'm carrying. And innovation in the broadest context that we can consider. And that's exactly what we offer. And in this process, we have sort of created various tools, methods, mechanisms, also, and also variety of theoretical as well as actionable constructs, I would say, which we can impart, or in fact, we have been imparting here. And whoever comes specifically for the corporate world, more or less, but others also, even some colleges, even in some schools, also we have tried. But I think this particular initiative of working with 100 young people who really want to explore the world through this creative and also innovative mechanism that you are initiating will be one of the greatest, I think, learning as well as a contribution from our side. So that's where I come from. Having said that, I think this will also take some sort of a challenge to work across uh, the continents, and also working together across multiple cultures, as understand, and also the backgrounds there's these students or these people will be coming from. So that's sort of a, I think, the globalized village that we have, the concept of connected world that we have been talking about, or we have been sort of seeing how it got connected through the technological links that we have, just like what we are seeing now in 2024. And I think this is really the prime time to really create these sort of connections which you are anchoring. And I'm really thankful for this opportunity to work with you to impart these capabilities, so to say. So I must thank you for inviting me, and also connecting with the potential students or potential people who would like to explore the new ways or different ways to explore how to create new solutions for new problems that we are seeing here. Okay, so that's what I just wanted to start with. Okay, over to you.
Th- Thank you. Thank you. While we prepare for these interviews, I also, I really enjoy picking up on some language and keywords that I believe are important to underscore and bring forward into the conversation, primarily because the overarching purpose of this mini series is for these potential young women who will be signing up for our programs and who already are in the process of signing up to know more about what is the program, who are our facilitators, and why this will benefit them. And that's really the overarching part to this. I picked up on something towards the end that you said that I want to bring forward. But before that, I think it's also, essential for us to take a step back for ourselves in this conversation, as well as for those who are watching in, to know that who are you while you are going to be signing into this program. While we have used the word young, I want to also add the part about knowing that you don't necessarily have to be a college student or a high school graduate to join this. Even if you are someone in your 30s or your 40s and you really believe that there is something that you would like to change, and mind you, a lot of times our understanding of change is very external, like it's projected outwards, and the way we are developing this curriculum, it is designed in a way that it will provide you opportunities to change the outside world with respect to whether it's education, woman empowerment, waste management, water, and all of these things, right? But the other things that have not been mentioned, but they are implied and intrinsic, that I believe need to be spoken about, is the impact to you internally, because you will be provided this opportunity to lead. So it's not just self leadership, but it's also about working with your community, building something that you can sustain in the long run. And this is very powerful because, I started off talking about the barriers, the systemic barriers, the individual barriers that we carry as women, imposter syndrome as well. And here is this opportunity to shatter all of that, to challenge yourself, and to rise to this occasion of a very powerful and beautiful opportunity where you can lead. So, on that note, Navneet, before I dovetail into the other parts, you said new problems, new challenges, and new things that are coming up. So, in your mind, and I know this is unpredictable, but I'm quite sure and I believe you already know where this is going. Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean from your perspective and in your experience?
Yeah, so shall I make a presentation? Shall I open my presentation?
Please go ahead.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, just a second. Let me share my screen and okay, is it visible? Can you see my screen? No. Hello?
Sorry, I was on mute. I was saying yes, it is visible.
Okay,
Please go ahead. Sorry. Thank you.
okay. Okay, so I think to answer your question, I think what is new and what is not new, and whether the problems are new or whether the solutions are new, both I think all sort of things are part of the process. So I think I'll just run through a couple of slides or a few slides of this presentation which I will share also with you later. Which, if you want to send it to anyone, you can. We call it the what the underlying traits of what makes us human is that we can learn, we can change things innovatively for a specific purpose. We actually do certain solutioning, which can be totally new, and of course, we learn for new options to solve problems. We have foresight also, looking ahead or thinking ahead about how future can be redesigned or designed in a manner which is conducive for collective uh, growth. And finally, we have empathy with others. So I think all these four makes us much more or more closer to human than any technical or any non-human species also, or even any technical capabilities, technological systems, or the machine, if you may. So we are talking about what is really these specific four traits: learning, innovation, foresight, and empathy. So if you just sort of look at this as what we call life, right? I mean, life is learning, innovation, foresight, and empathy. How do we learn? How do we innovate? How do we develop foresight? And how do we inculcate empathy with others? I think these are the key traits which anyway are there, but how do we build a capability and how do we learn to do life, all these four traits is exactly what we offer as part of our program. We call it the School of Life, learning, innovation, foresight, and life empathy. And this, once you have these gone through this particular program, that we have a particular set of projects, typically what we are offering to work with the students or working with whoever wants to join us. We call, once they've gone through these four traits and also the methods, mechanisms, and methodologies that we have developed and also experimented, explored, and also created this whole framework of what a school of life. I think this is a process or a journey towards what we call innovation crafter. So the people who will go through this particular, the students who will go through this particular program will be transformed to what we call innovation crafter. And there are certain stages to this, which I'm going to explain. But more than that, the process of how the person who goes through this particular journey of really creating the change that we want to see or we want to create, or the needed change that is required, as you mentioned about the systemic issues in the which actually hinders I mean, half of the humanity. I mean, the women power is has been under sort of huge constraints of not being given these opportunities to explore STEM, as you said, or even STEAM also, to a great extent because of the societal, cultural, and also historical constraints that we have seen across the world. In fact, it has been just about 150 years late back that women have started becoming more and more interested or more and more open to explore these newer fields of science, technology, mathematics, and engineering. Earlier, it was sort of constrained and also not allowed by a variety of structures that were in place. So we are living in a much open, much better world today, and I think it has to open further. And maybe through this particular process, as you are doing, or this particular initiative, we are going to start in a will sort of create the change that we want to see in the world. So that's exactly what Mahatma Gandhi told us to be the definition of innovation, in my view, be the change that you want to see in the world. So I think that is very in resonance, in sort of connection, or in sort of sync that is our philosophy also. So, who is the innovation crafter? And we have sort of looked at three specific stages to really go through any particular process of change. So, as you also mentioned about the internal change that you go through, right? I mean, that's what you mentioned. Not only the external change that you are creating, but also the internal. upliftment also, and also transformation that you will see. I think we have seen, myself particularly has seen extensively when I followed this particular process of what we call become a journey of becoming a saint from starting as a simpleton. So I'm going to explain these 3 points, and then you can see how this journey has to be started again and again, and also through these loops of becoming simpleton again from saint. You actually keep on evolving through a spiral evolution of expanding your knowledge and also understanding and also your thinking, which actually connects much deeper than any other process that we have seen. So it is beyond shallow and shiny. We actually focus on creating what we call the profound blissfulness uh, in sync with the outer world, but it is actually internal transformation. And as you know, this is a very interesting quote by Holmes, which says, I would not give a fig for the simplicity this side of complexity, but I would give my life for the simplicity on the other side of complexity. So, how do we really penetrate the mountains and of complexity through these probes, through these processes, through these precision mechanisms that we really can transfer our understanding and also our capability to really move what is trivial simplicity on this side to profound simplicity on the other side of complexity is what we are really trying to impart here. And this is exactly the process that we have. I would not call it discovered, but definitely there are a lot of elements of discovery in this whole framework. But also, we have stitched together certain ways in which these processes can really take a person, whoever he is or he or she is, through this process to really transform not only the world that he actually is engaged with, but also the internal transformation that he will gain for the profound blissfulness that we talk about. So, to be a simpleton again after becoming a saint, which is basically a sort of an expert in that particular system or particular context that he or she finds herself, which he or she has transformed already, because then it sort of goes to your ego saying that I have transformed this, therefore I have become knowledgeable, I understand this. But supposing a new context comes, would you like to become a simpleton again? And this learning is exactly what we are offering in our program. So I'm just going to explain why it has to start as early as possible compared to the existing education system that we have, is because the world that we have is transforming and becoming more complex in a multiple dimensions and much more rapidly. And the leaders who will lead humanity next are already born, right? So that is where, how do we make the future count? And that's where we are basically saying earlier we get imparting these capabilities and these new stitched frameworks through gain through multiple experiences, multiple experiments, better it will be for the world at large and also the future. Okay, so we already, as you said, we teach our students in various subjects, right? I mean, physics, chemistry, STEM, or STEAM, also variety of subjects we teach. But we don't teach them to be inventors, innovators, entrepreneurs, designers, authors, or uh, even any type of artist also. So how do we really teach them? Can we teach them? Is there a school for them? How to be an inventor? How to be an innovator? How to be an author? How to be, of course, there are certain ways, certain things, but it's not a formal way in which creativity and creatively expressing yourself through structured mechanisms has sort of not been a mainstream part of the whole education system. So that's exactly what we are offering, because what we have found as these college students goes to the corporate world or to their vocation wherever, their need is not necessarily to look at the basic understanding of the subjects that they have gone through in your college, but really about how do we stitch together and understand the complex problems and solve those problems by new ways or maybe new lenses. And that's exactly the missing piece in this whole process. So this program that we have will give, or already we have seen in wherever we have worked, is really going to give us capabilities to learn, to innovate, develop foresight, and also have empathy with the context and the systems that they're working with. So this is what we have as program, and this has come from years of experience and experimentation and many failures, I would say, when we started exploring these, and also many successes that we have in our journey. Uh, and there are three phases that we have: understand the world around you, understand your markets and your customers or the context, and then understand yourself by seeing how your business really can be. This is some sort of a program, but it is not really a regular run of the mill type of classroom type of a program. We actually have five different type of projects that they have to do, and those projects will be really the hands-on work, and through the projects only the certification program or this particular program will grow. And in fact, this is exactly what we have seen in multiple companies who really need. Companies have multiple innovation cells, innovation groups, centers of excellence, CTO offices, productivity improvement initiatives, innovation labs, but they do not know how to find people who will do this, because they have engineers, who they have managers, they have scientists, they have artists, they have designers, but they do not have innovators, because their innovators are very specific to their field and or their domain. Whereas in the broader sense of the world that we are looking at, the world really requires a comprehensive understanding and also a meta understanding of how to really create those how to utilize multiple ways of thinking to really create those solutions which are required. So this is where the need is, and the fulfilling these needs, I think these sort of programs we have found will be useful at the college level or even at the school level is what we are offering. But because we are teaching these sort of programs to the corporate world, but as you can see that there is a huge demand for these sort of capabilities to be included in the curriculum. And in fact, a lot of people are finding now, because the world has transformed into what we call the sixth wave of innovation, which I'll explain. Uh, because the new type of capabilities, new type of technologies, new type of structures are in place, and this is a transformation that actually happens every few decades of this, which we call the waves of innovation, where you get through new creative destruction. So, destruction of the existing economic system for creating value across the world, and this is destroyed by not by from outside structures, but from internal innovation, and which replaces the existing economic system by a new, totally revamped, totally, redesigned economic system that replaces the world. And this we have seen, if you will see, in 1980s to 1990s, when software based world started eating the world, as they call it. And it transformed. We have Google, we have Amazon, we have Netflix type of companies, which became multi-billion-dollar companies now, but they started in 1990s, which is where the software-based companies came. And now exactly what we are seeing, a new creative destruction since 2015, and specifically 2020, which we have seen because of the COVID problem, or COVID epidemic or pandemic. We already have a transformed requirement or transformation requirement, that we need to really look at how to really learn new methods, new techniques. So this is where uh, we I was talking about tomorrow's problems and tomorrow's solutions. And can tomorrow's solutions be created today? And this is exactly what we are offering with this new thinking dimensions that we call Elvis Can thinking. I'll explain that because our focus has been on imparting analytical and logical thinking in our classrooms, in our colleges, which needs to be supplanted and expanded to include other type of thinking dimensions, which we call the inventive thinking, systems thinking, and also what we call the value thinking. So this is where I think the important point of uh, thinking dimensions. I'll just skip to those thinking dimensions just to give you those points about what are those thinking dimensions, right? I mean, let me just go to. So we have these 11 dimensional thinking that we talk about, which has been the 5 dimensional classical thinking, analytical, logical, value. Uh, I mean, analytical, logical has been a sort of a staple diet in our colleges, in our programs that we have in our colleges. So people, schools and colleges, they understand analysis, they understand logic, but unfortunately, the value thinking, inventive thinking, systems thinking, as a regular structured curriculum has not been imparted. So, which we want to, which is what we is required as we started looking at through our new lenses of understanding how complex the world is. So, how do we really understand new way of exploring the world and also solving these high order complexity of the new world, as you were asking about the new problems and new solutions, right? And what has happened in last 10 years or so, there are new ways of thinking that we need to develop, and which we call the computational thinking. Suddenly, in last decade or so, data oriented, as data become what became big data, suddenly the methods, techniques to explore and understand how to compute and how to understand this whole huge humongous data that we are collecting, how do we use that data for meaningful insights and meaningful solutioning, has been lost, or we didn't have those techniques or methods connected with our methods. So this is where the computational thinking and the algorithmic thinking has started as part of the solutioning, as part of the curriculum, which is, I think, the new thinking dimensions. All of us may have to learn computational thinking and algorithmic thinking. Along with this, we are scaling up, we are building huge scaled systems, but these are not designed ab initio. They are actually being evolved through certain structured methods and certain protocols in which the multiple systems of systems work together. And that is where the scale thinking and network thinking comes into picture. So suddenly you can see that initial those 5 dimensional classical thinking that we talk about, which we call the Elvis thinking, has to be supplanted with new thinking dimensions of scale, computational thinking, algorithmic thinking, and the network thinking. And I must sort of say warn also, in the sense that the next 5 years or so, or even maybe earlier, we are going to look at the quantum thinking and nano thinking. At the nano level, we are talking about devices, machines, and mechanisms at 10 to power minus 10 meter level, which is not visible to us and the naked eye. And then the quantum thinking, because quantum mechanics and also the quantum computing is going to sort of energize the matter or make it live. The matter at the molecular level, at the atomic level, will become live. What I mean by that live is it will become intelligent through certain mechanisms that we are going to build. And we are electronics age that we are sort of going through will give to what we call the bosonics and the photonics age at the nano level, at the quantum level. And this is, I think, the big change that is coming. So if we do not really start learning these new dimensions thinking now, I don't think we are going to catch up in say 5 or 6 years ahead. So how do we do that? So how do we bring these young people to learn these methods? We need to give them as it is, as we are seeing, and also as a collective mechanism, as a connected sort of a way in which all these 11 dimensions, thinking dimensions, are offered to people, to students, to learn and also understand the world, and then of course create the change. So in that context, our whole point about this sort of a course of the innovation crafter, as we call it, becoming simpleton, I mean, starting as looking at the world afresh every time, which is what I call the simpleton, and then becoming a scientist through this 11 dimensional thinking, and then, of course, creating solutions through these 11 dimensional methods of thinking and also solutioning to create much more robust, much more longer term solutions which will live much longer than our existing solutions, and also not create the negative or unintended consequences of our solutions. This sort of a thinking has to be integrated and offered to our students or our next generation, and this, I think, is essential. Otherwise, we are looking at huge, humongous explosion of complexity which will not help the planet at all, and also to us, so to say. So in that context, I think this is sort of a overall framework of how you can look at the world around you by seeing, observing, understanding, and living. And then, of course, these 11 dimensional thinking. I'll just complete my presentation and then we can have a discussion. These are 10 traits that the person who goes through this particular program of about 9 months will have. So he will be able to establish a system of innovation wherever he goes, or he or she explore and enable what we call the uncommon sense and uncommon nonsense compared to the common sense and common nonsense. He will learn spirally and evolve through the spiral learning, and then, of course, he will become a polymath, which is basically a Leonardo da Vinci type of a thinking, because it's we are not going to be a specialist in one particular field. We are going to be a systems explorers, I would say. And this is where the polymathy comes into picture, which is a term for how those polymaths have to define the new world, connecting multiple streams, multiple specializations together to solve problems. And then, of course, he does what we call the deliberate innovation practice, which we will learn what is the meaning of deliberate practice and deliberate innovation practice that we have. Then, of course, he will follow the fourth paradigm, which is the looking at how data can be utilized for a variety of solutioning rather than trying to do a more of a top-down way of solutioning. We are going to learn through this particular process of what data is saying, and then he becomes more and more tuned to seeing the traits that are going to create these changes, which we call the 7 P's and 7 D's. He has to have find out the passion that he has or he or she has, what sort of patience that is required, how much perseverance he has to really put in the process of creating the change, what sort of planning, what sort of pride he or she should have, and then purpose, and of course, finally the planet part. Unless it is tuned or in tune with the whole planet, I think the long term solutions may not strive. So these are the sort of traits that we have. The person who becomes an innovation crafter will always invent strong. What I mean by that is not doing the trivial or superficial plus minus sort of a solutioning, but really doing the next generation solutioning, which we call the invent strong, which is sort of a level 3 inventions. If you look at the 5 levels of inventiveness, minimum level 2 or above level 3 will be his typical focus, is what we are offering. And he will always explore multiple dimensions of problem system framework. There are 9 dimensions that we have in our course, and then ultimately he will establish and also create any type of a structure for any type of organization, an innovation canvas, and also an enterprise innovation mechanism, which will really make the whole organization innovative, is what we are sort of saying. And in this process, we have these 5 paths to innovation. We have these 5 paths to innovation that we have seen, and also I think this is really what has been our experience. So, how do we innovate? Is by imagining a future that is not extrapolated from existing history. You transform an existing system in some way, which is really a change into a big change in the existing system, which is we call the transform an existing system. Then third way in which you really create innovation is solve a problem. And fourth and fifth ways are you actually look at how the users are exploring a particular or how the users are in a particular system or a particular context, and what is the hidden customer need or hidden user need, and identify those needs and then fulfill how that need can be filled. So this is the fourth part. Finally, the world is changing technologically as well as different business processes. How do we develop the foresight of where it is going, and how do we bring that foresight to our solutioning today? And this is the five paths that we have. Corresponding to each of these paths, we have five type of projects that we offer, and we have been doing with all the companies and all the other organizations that we have been working with. First one is the of course the imagine a future which leads to new concept development about the future. Then we have this transform an existing system, which is basically look at the existing system, typically a patent available or existing solution which is existing platform which is existing. For example, how do we really come out with a technological alternative to that particular platform is the second part of a project type that we have. Then of course the multiple type of problems and multiple problems levels, and we have problem solving projects. And then of course we have the customer value project, which is the customer need perspective. And finally the foresight projects, which is the technological and business foresight, how it drives the future. So the process is once you do these projects, we have this journey of the innovation co-crafter is through these first five levels, and which we are saying that in this 9 months potentially we can do. The good point is it's not really you need to do these 9 months at a stretch. You can be a simple user of these methods by doing a quick innovation project, and then maybe take a gap, and but you'll get a quick innovation project or the user innovation crafter certificate or innovation crafting user certificate after the first project. But if you have done a particular one structured innovation project in those five types that we have, then we actually give you an explorer certificate. And so this typically will be possible within, I think, 4 to 5 months is what we think. But as a practitioner, you have to do 3 to 5 structured innovation projects. So in 9 months, we believe and we have seen these students can be the practitioners, and this is where the three certificates you can have. But it is quite possible that some of them may develop this ability to facilitate others. So potentially, if you have done all the five types of structured innovation projects, plus you have facilitated one uh, SIP, one structured innovation project with the others, you become a facilitator. So innovation co-crafter then you become, because you can co-craft, you can facilitate the co-crafting process. But you become the co-crafter, innovation co-crafter, which is the final sort of a certificate or for diploma, if you may, of ability to facilitate in all five types of structured innovation projects. And the facilitation requires a different type of thinking and also different type of empathy to be developed for the context and also for the user and also for the specific person or the specific student who is actually facilitating. Finally, the sixth part is where you can become a innovation scientist or innovation artist, where we are saying that you will be able to reach to that level after these 9 months or 1 year maximum, or at least minimum I think 9 to 1 year. Of course, if you have something already, that's a different process, different point altogether. But the method or the level at which we call you a scientist or an artist, innovation artist, we call when you have created either an original tool technique for innovation in this context and also taken our existing methods to the next level. A co-crafter who evolves the framework is really what we are looking for, this whole framework. So this is not a static one. You actually, we are asking for hand in glove working with us to really explore these techniques, these methods, this framework, and also work with us to become innovation scientists and innovation artists ahead, which is not really limited to these 9 months or these 1 year of working with us. And also, it is not exactly 9 months or 11 or 1 year. You can do it in 2 weeks or also, and maybe 6 weeks, and get a user certificate and use these techniques or methods in whatever way you want. You can be an explorer if you want to do a structured innovation project. So, okay, so this is the sort of a I mean, evolution journey, and where various tools for our soul Elvis craft process, which are part of this. And I think we can sort of look at. Okay, final point is why this particular situation now, as we have was talking about the creative destruction part, we actually have seen these waves of innovation as I discussed, and we are in the sixth wave from 2020 as per this particular graph for last about so many years, right? I mean, so the sixth wave is driven by a new type of technologies where we are looking at making things nano, network, autonomous, and hypersonic, and using algorithmic or artificial intelligence, as they call it, along with upcoming quantum computing to ability. This is giving us ability to synthesize biology, energy, and reality, which is unprecedented. So, if this is unprecedented, the methods, techniques, and our education system need to be in sync with this. And I think what we are offering are these projects that are part of this process, where if you do these projects, these type of projects with us, using these new sixth wave of innovation technologies for solving real wicked and also complex problems that we are seeing, potentially we will be able to champion the cause of taking the world to the next level, along with our kids who are coming up, who actually are the champions of the future. So I'm not sure how much time I have taken, but I hope it covers some of the points that you had. And maybe I'll just close this and we can have a chat.
Thank you very much for sharing that overview. It's quite deep, and I'm sure that for our potential participants watching in, this will provide not just insight but inspiration towards joining you through this course. I do know that offline, you and our other two facilitators, we have all been collectively um, making an attempt to decide the sort of timelines of how this is going to roll out. And my sense is really that each of these programs provides a very rich, sense of systems and systemic approaches towards what I believe is a necessity, not just from a perspective of transforming minds, but I really appreciate how you have underscored the importance of continuing to connect it back to the planet. Because, a lot of times we can get lost in the translation, isn't it? Of just the perfection of things. And, it can never be perfect, but being able to have, I think, a sort of, reverence towards this work and saying how does this continuing to connect it back to the need, the value of this transformation, the inner engineering, as well as how this can be directly applied towards something that is important, something that is the need of the hour, something that can be harnessed and nurtured in a sustainable way. I believe those are some things that I would like to also add from the perspective of planting the seeds in this conversation for our potential students to think about. I do know that you, Deepak, and Kwame have been saying that, while the students will come in, you will have the opportunity and the scope to invite them to think about the solution from a problem perspective, from a challenge perspective, which is very real and very practical. And I think that's really going to be the way that we measure how much they are able to integrate these systems and then take it forward. I also appreciate how you have spoken about the co-crafting mechanism in this, because that is a very powerful dimension for them to not just think about themselves as being in receiving mode, and then the linear fashion of applying it somewhere, but rising to the occasion of then taking it forward, from not just from an advocacy perspective, but really transforming the systems that you bring in, um, and integrating it for themselves as well as for maybe other young people coming in, other women coming in. And I'm very excited about that. I'm excited and thrilled to see how this journey is going to take shape. I know that personally, I'm going to be also attending your workshop during this year, and I'm very excited about this. I wanted to also ask, based on what you just shared from a duration perspective, because it's a commitment, and we want to ensure that we have participants who really, not really a seriousness, but a discipline and a rigor around why they are joining this program. So, from a time commitment, uh, you said that this can be done, in different durations. So, are you planning to look at this as a 3 month initially for a cohort, and then moving on to a 9 month, or is it all encompassing in a 9 month? If you could explain that as well, please.
Yeah, so I think what I have explained is those different certificates that you will get, right? I mean, the user, explorer, practitioner, facilitator, right? I mean, those 5 levels that we have. For each of these, there are certain conditions or certain requirements that you need to complete so many projects of this particular type. And as soon as you complete, so for example, the user project, the user of this user certificate could be done in just 2 to 3 weeks also, based on how quickly you do it, because exactly the quick innovation project. But we need, it has to be done through a facilitator mode, where we will facilitate and work with the students on that particular problem for 3 to 4 weeks. Typically it may take 6 to 8 weeks also. I mean, from 2 weeks to 8 weeks you can sort of look at one particular. But as the person does the next one, which is the much more structured innovation project, or he can choose, or he can choose whether to use the quick innovation project, or start with a structured innovation project of problem solving, or looking at the next whatever that all the 5 projects that we talked about. Whichever he wants to choose, or he or she wants to choose, we can do. So it is not really the 9 months, as we are saying. 9 months is the total time required to do this. I mean, all these 5 projects, but this can be in a calendar time of 3 years also. I mean, it depends upon how much they want to do. But the minimum is to do this 2 to 6 weeks, where they will do one project, at least one structured innovation project of problem solving has to be done, along with maybe a quick innovation project, to be called an explorer of this particular part. So that is a sort of a timeline. But once you have done, I can tell you what we have seen. The people also wants to learn the next or the different projects also, because the techniques, methods, and the starting points are different for each of these project points, right? And typically the problem statements also the challenges will be in each of these 5 will be very different, because suddenly customer or the customer value project means that user you need to understand, and what is the hidden need of the user. So you need to observe, you need to do a market study, you need to observe the users in the context. So those techniques are very different than, say, problem solving one. But having said that, once you learn these different projects, these 5 different projects, you actually cover the whole spectrum of how different paths of innovation will be. And over a particular point, you will say, okay, I can also facilitate others to teach this. And that is where the fourth and fifth part comes into picture, where you become a facilitator of others. So this is a double loop type of a learning, or double loop type of a mechanism of creating the next generation facilitators also through the same batch, who are going to be part of this. So this is not going to be a sort of a stopping at the particular point anytime. So potentially I am seeing this and we have seen other people also. The continuous lifelong learning is what we are seeing. And also, if you become an innovation artist or innovation scientist or innovation crafter, I mean the final stage, you actually develop this framework next to the next level. And in fact, that is where you become the owner of this framework plus your delta or your change that you have created or advanced. So you own this actually. So you become the owner of the framework along with learning through this particular process. So this is not a end of a transactional type of a teaching thing that we are talking about. We are talking about becoming, in the true sense, co-crafter, and let us co-craft together. I hope I have answered the question to some extent.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It's transformative, and those kind of experiences, as in life, is not linear. So it's hard to predict from the longer perspective. But I understand that if someone wants to fast track, it could take anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks with facilitation to complete a
Yes.
single project.
Yeah.
I personally am very excited because I would love to see myself from the mode of what you spoke about in the latter, which is really what Chrysalis is about, isn't it? We are it's the meta within the meta right now that we're talking about, being able to facilitate agents of change through the Chrysalis. And really, for me personally, I'm planning to bring the Chrysalis inside your framework, so that that itself is the project, that itself becomes the comprehensive a need that I am excited to bring in. So I want to, as we're wrapping up this conversation and your presentation, I wanted to first acknowledge you because, this is part of something that you are clearly, through our conversations over the months and even knowing you over the years, you're very passionate about, and you're very dedicated to. And seeing as how, you through this conversation as well, being able to articulate how you wish to see the younger generation feeling an intrinsic sense of responsibility, because it has to be, who else is going to take it up from here? Facilitation is one part of it, but a felt urgency towards the planet, and being able to see them grow and transform through this, I think, is a very worthy mission and cause. And that's the reason we have aligned so naturally.
That's right. That's right.
Your mission and our mission, and just on a personal level, our core values towards serving the planet, serving humanity in a worthy way. Um, and so I wanted to acknowledge you and thank you for saying yes to being a part of this mission with us. And it's not at all taken for granted, the time and the effort that you have already put in and you will be putting. So I know that this is the first cycle, and we are working across countries, and like you had mentioned in the beginning, the whole cultural aspect to this. But I think that is, just the beauty of us coming together and doing this itself is totally worth the investment.
Yeah, I think I must acknowledge you being the architect and also the catalyst of this change, and also proliferating across the continents and taking care of these mechanisms of connection, which I don't think, I mean, anyone else I have seen has this uh, sort of a passion to connect across the cultures and sort of bring together this sort of a program, and also maybe this sort of a interchange that I think is facilitated, of course, utilizing the technology, but it is beyond technology also. As you said, the internal connect is much more stronger, that we can bring more and more with across the cultures, because at the bottom of this whole discussion, uh, where is the planet? It is inside us anyway. I mean, there is no outside planet, and also we are the planet that we actually are. So if we are in sync with the planet, we are in sync with ourselves. So that's the sort of a thinking that I have, or in fact, more closer to what it should be, I believe, rather than trying to say that differentiating ourselves from the reality that we are seeing, or the at least processing the reality that we process outside. But it is, as you said, the connectivity is beyond. I mean, beyond any type of falsehood, we are connected. We are the one, and only thing is we need to really remember, and we need to come out of this memory loss of our togetherness of the world that we have. So how do we inculcate these connections? So I think that is, I must congratulate you also for doing these connections, and also making, I mean, bringing the memory back of our oneness, so to say, of the world. And we have this particular saying, which is the global village. I think the Indian philosophy is about all of us are the same village. But I think what is required is to remember and bring this memory loss, or bring this memory loss, or sort of give some sort of impetus to bring the hidden memories and sort of bring this togetherness ahead, which I think is what your organization and you are doing. And I really look forward to working on this, and specifically doing these new changes that we have found, or at least discovered and stitched together through these frameworks. So I really look forward to working with you, and also all those people who would like to define the next world that we will be moving together. Thank you.
Thank you. As within, so without, as above, so below, as in the
Yes.
macrocosm, so in the microcosm. And, I'm just thinking of it's really, really wonderful. Just the energetics of what you just said and the downloads of the togetherness. We are the one. I really like that statement. And I do believe that it's when we come together like this, regardless of where we are from, regardless of all these human constructs and narratives, if we can cut through all that, pardon my French, but all the bullshit, to reconnect at a very fundamental level and understand the sacredness of what we are doing. I think a lot from that intention itself, a lot is already happening, like right now in this space, right? And that's very powerful. I really, really want to thank you. For sharing all of that, and for being present, and for participating in this collective project that we are on together. I want to also thank our audience, those who have been chiming in, watching with us on this journey, and those who will be watching, and especially to you, if you are a woman and you would like to be a part of this program, please feel free to reach out to us. I know that Navneet has also shared his coordinates. And for me, I can also be reached on LinkedIn. Just send me a DM and let me know that you would like to be a part of it, or here on YouTube as well. Thank you all once again for being a part of this mini series. Navneet, thank you for your time and have a wonderful rest of your day. We look forward to seeing you very, very soon. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.